Okay, so have you ever, like, started a project with, like, all these great ideas,
Yeah,
Like, you got the whiteboard going, you're all excited,
totally.
and then, like, somewhere along the line, things just go
Oh,
completely sideways.
happens all the time.
Yeah, and it's like scope creep and deadlines get missed, and suddenly it's a total headache.
Cool. It's the worst.
Right. So that's what we're diving into today. This
Yeah.
whole world of project management and how to, like, avoid those kind of disasters.
Sounds good.
And we've got a really cool excerpt here from Texcole.
Oh, yeah, I read that.
Yeah, and it talks about project management as, like, this
hmm
blend of art and science.
It's true, though. It's not just like a rigid process.
Yeah,
There's a creative element to it, for sure.
definitely. And that's what we're going to unpack today. Like,
Right.
no matter how much experience you have with projects already,
Yeah.
we're going to pull out the most useful stuff from this source
Okay.
and see how you can actually apply it,
Awesome.
to your own work.
I like it.
So before we get into all the details,
Sure.
let's just define what we're even talking about.
Yeah.
What is this thing called project management?
Well, they define it here as like the planning and the execution
Okay.
and the monitoring of tasks
Right.
to hit specific objective.
Mm-hmm. So that sounds kind of basic, though, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we plan stuff all the time.
Exactly.
Like grocery shopping, going on vacation.
Like many projects.
Right. So what makes it different when we talk about, like,
Yeah.
formal project management?
Okay, so the big thing is a project in this sense is it's temporary and it's unique.
Okay.
So it's got like a clear start and finish line.
Right.
And it's all about making something new happen
Got it.
or hitting a specific goal, unlike just like routine work.
So it's not just keeping things ticking along. It's about actually
Right.
making something
Making something happen.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the source also mentions this idea of delivering value, which
Yeah.
I think is super important.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not just checking off boxes.
No.
It's about creating a result that matters.
Totally.
So I want to ask our listeners, like,
Okay.
when you think about the projects you're working on,
Mm-hmm.
what kind of value are you aiming for?
Right.
Is it like a new product or
Yeah.
a streamlined process or
Like a solution?
a solution to a problem?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Right. And figuring out that value from the start is, like,
Yeah,
super key.
totally. It's like your compass,
Exactly.
guiding every decision you make.
Right. And speaking of guiding decisions, this source talks about the project life cycle,
Uh-huh, the life cycle.
which they break down into 5 phases.
Okay.
And I was thinking about it, like
Yeah.
baking a cake.
Right, I like where this is going.
Right. So first you have the initiation phase.
Okay, at the beginning.
Right. And this is where you're, like, gathering your ingredients and double checking the recipe.
Mm-hmm.
In project terms, that means, like, defining your objectives,
Makes sense.
figuring out the scope, who are your stakeholders,
Yeah.
all that prep work.
Like setting the stage.
Exactly. Like setting yourself up for success from the get-go.
And, just like with baking,
Yeah.
if you start a cake with the wrong ingredients
Oh, totally.
or a recipe you barely understand,
Oh, it's a disaster.
setting yourself up for disaster.
Right. A total cake catastrophe.
Exactly.
But with a clear vision and a shared understanding of the recipe,
Yeah.
you're way more likely to get that delicious cake.
For sure.
Or, in our case, a successful project.
Exactly.
Okay, so once you've got your ingredients and recipe sorted,
Okay.
we move on to planning,
The plan.
right? This is where you create the blueprint, like a baking timeline.
Makes sense.
What needs to be done in what order, by whom, and by when.
Okay.
And this is where it gets a little more technical.
Yeah.
Like project managers use tools like Gantt charts.
Oh, yeah, those are great for visualizing.
Yeah, they map out the timeline
Uh-huh.
or worked breakdown structure.
Okay, so that breaks everything down.
Right, it breaks the whole project down into smaller, manageable tasks.
So it's like taking your cake recipe
Yeah,
and listing out every single step.
exactly.
Like mixing the dry ingredients,
Yep.
creaming the butter and sugar,
Uh-huh.
all those little things that add up.
Right, it helps you see all the pieces
Yeah,
that need to come together to create the final product.
exactly. And just like a detailed baking timeline helps you avoid a soggy cake,
Oh, yeah.
a well-structured plan in a project
Mm-hmm.
can prevent delays and confusion and those dreaded scope changes.
Right. It's all about having that roadmap
Exactly.
so everyone on the team knows what they're doing.
Totally. And when they need to do it.
Yeah, and how it all fits together
That's the key.
to make that delicious project cake.
I'm hungry now.
Me too. All right, so we've got our ingredients are all measured out, ovens preheated.
Okay.
Now we need someone to actually do the baking.
Right.
Which brings us to the execution phase.
This is where it gets real.
All right, it's go time. the team comes together to like actually carry out the tasks.
Put the plan into action.
But even with the best plan and a skilled team, things can still go wrong.
Right? Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like I'm imagining someone forgets to set a timer.
Oh.
Or maybe the oven temperature is off.
Too hot.
Way too hot, and you've got a burnt cake.
Disaster.
Exactly. So that's why the next phase is so important.
Yeah.
Monitoring and controlling.
Keeping an eye on things.
It's like constantly checking that cake while it's baking.
Yeah.
You know?
Making sure it's going right.
Adjusting the temperature if needed.
Right. And this is where experience really helps.
Oh, totally.
A good project manager can, like, sense those potential burnt cake moments.
Right.
And prevent them.
So in a project setting, what are some signs that things might be...
Okay, good question.
Veering off course.
Well, consistent missed deadlines are a big one.
Okay, yeah.
Tasks taking way longer than planned. Communication breakdowns within the team.
Right. So it's not just about reacting to those problems.
No.
It's about proactively managing risks.
Exactly. Got to stay ahead of the game.
So risk management. What are some examples of risks that might pop up?
Well, there are so many.
Right.
Like a key team member getting sick.
Oh, yeah.
A sudden technology change. Even external stuff like a shift in the market.
Wow. So many things to think about.
And a good project manager is always identifying those potential risks.
Right.
And coming up with backup plans.
It's like you need a crystal ball to be a project manager.
Kinda. Yeah. You got to be able to anticipate and manage all those what ifs.
Okay, so our cake is baked. It looks amazing.
That smells delicious. I'm ready for a slice.
Now comes the best part. Closure.
Ah, time to enjoy.
Time to celebrate, but also to reflect on the process.
Yeah, closure isn't just about celebrating. It's about taking those lessons learned.
Right, like taking notes on your cake recipe.
Exactly.
So next time it turns out even better.
Make those improvements.
Were there any steps that were confusing? Did you need to adjust the baking time?
Right. Document those insights.
Right, because those can be super valuable for future projects.
Absolutely.
But even with the best recipes and most meticulous baking skills, things can still go wrong if you don't have the right tools. Ingredients. Okay. I'm pushing that baking analogy a little too far.
No, I think it works.
Okay, good. But you're right. Beyond the phases and the processes, there's a human element to project management, and that's where skills come in.
You got it.
And this source lays out some key skills like leadership, communication, time management, problem solving, technical know-how. That's a lot.
It is a lot, but don't get overwhelmed.
Okay.
These are skills you can develop over time.
So we don't need to be born project management superstars.
No.
We can learn and grow and refine our approach.
Exactly.
Okay, so out of all those skills, if we had to pick one to highlight today,
it's tough.
which would you choose?
You know, I think communication is often overlooked.
Really?
Yeah, but it's so critical for project success.
I can see that.
I mean, think about it. A project involves a lot of people working together.
Yeah, towards a common goal.
Right. So without clear and consistent communication.
Yeah, things can fall apart quickly.
Exactly. And it's not just about like sending emails and attending meetings.
Okay.
It's about building relationships.
Right.
Fostering trust within the team. Actively listening to feedback.
So it's about creating an environment where everyone feels heard.
Right.
Understood.
And empowered to contribute.
So a good project manager who can communicate effectively can like inspire their team.
Absolutely.
Motivate them and guide them towards success.
It's all connected.
So I want our listeners to think about their own communication style in a project setting. Are you clear and concise in your messages?
Good question.
Are you a good listener?
Yeah.
Do you actively seek out feedback?
Those are all important.
Now, beyond individual skills, there's also the question of how we approach projects as a whole.
Okay.
And that's where methodologies come in.
Right. It's like choosing the right recipe for the job.
Okay, I like that.
Each methodology offers a different framework for managing projects. And each has its strengths and weaknesses.
So let's break down some of these methodologies. First up, we have waterfall.
The classic.
The classic linear approach.
Like building a house.
Right, one step at a time, each phase clearly defined.
And completed before moving on.
Exactly. So waterfall works well for projects where the requirements are super clear up front.
Yeah, where things are unlikely to change much.
It's all about detailed planning and then executing that plan precisely.
But what about projects where things are more fluid?
Yeah, where you need to adapt to change quickly.
That's where Agile comes in.
Agile.
It's more iterative and flexible.
Oh.
Embracing change, incorporating feedback throughout the whole life cycle.
So Agile is like cooking a complex meal
Yeah.
where you taste and adjust as you go.
Exactly, because in software development, just like with a new recipe, you learn and adapt as you get feedback.
And within Agile, there are different frameworks.
Oh, yeah.
Like Scrum, which is known for its short, focused sprints.
Those are great for keeping momentum.
And then there's Kanban.
All about visualizing the workflow.
Yeah, and optimizing efficiency.
We can do a whole deep dive just on Agile.
Another episode for sure, but for now, let's touch on another approach.
Okay.
Lean.
Lean.
It's all about maximizing value while minimizing waste.
Like a super efficient kitchen.
Okay.
Every movement is optimized.
Nothing goes to waste.
Right. So lean is about streamlining those processes.
Yeah.
Eliminating unnecessary steps. Focusing on delivering value to the customer.
And while lean originated in manufacturing, its principles can apply to all sorts of projects.
Absolutely.
So we've got waterfall, Agile, lean, Scrum, Kanban.
It's a lot.
It's a whole world of methodologies.
But the key is there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
The best methodology depends on the specific project.
And its context. So I want our listeners to think about the projects they're involved in.
Okay.
Have you used any of these methodologies?
Good question.
Which ones resonate with you?
Yeah.
Or maybe you're thinking, why bother with all this methodology stuff?
Yeah, it can seem like a lot.
It seems like a lot of work. It can feel that way, right? Like, why add all this extra complexity?
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
Okay.
Projects rarely go exactly according to plan.
You telling me?
Right. Remember those burnt cakes we were talking about?
Oh, yeah, things happen.
Life happens, right?
Exactly.
Projects can get messy, unpredictable.
For sure.
There's always that potential for scope creep.
Yep.
Resource constraints, miscommunication, all sorts of challenges.
And that's where project management comes in.
Right. It's like having a framework to deal with all that complexity.
Yeah. It's about making informed decisions even when things are crazy.
So it's not about avoiding those challenges altogether.
No.
It's about being prepared to handle them when they pop up.
Exactly. Having the tools and technique.
And the payoff can be huge.
Oh, yeah.
Not just for project success, but also for like reducing stress and just being more efficient overall.
Totally. When you understand those project management principles, you approach challenges differently.
With more confidence.
Yeah.
Use resources better.
And you ultimately deliver more value.
So we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From basic definitions to phases, skills, methodologies.
Even cake analogies.
Lots of cake analogies.
I'm still hungry.
Me too. But hopefully this deep dive has given you a new appreciation for the art and science of project management.
There's so much to it.
There really is. So as we wrap up, I want you to think about one specific action you can take this week to level up your own project game.
What's one thing you can improve?
Maybe it's working on your communication skills. Maybe it's exploring a new methodology like Agile or Lean.
Or even just taking the time to plan your next project really well.
Even small changes can make a difference.
They really can.
And remember, we've only just scratched the surface here.
Project management is a huge field.
It's constantly evolving.
Always something new to learn.
But hopefully this deep dive has given you a solid foundation to build on.
And we'll be here for you on future deep dives.
As you continue exploring this world.
Absolutely.
Until then, happy projecting.